The universe does not care about mercy. That was the first lesson humanity learned after leaving Earth. The second lesson came later. Mercy, when chosen anyway, could shake entire civilizations. The night the signal appeared, Elias Vaughn was alone. Not alone in the poetic sense. Truly alone. One human on a dead mining world that had been stripped of value decades ago and forgotten by every major power. The planet had no name anymore, only a registry code no one bothered to remember. Elias stayed because forgotten places paid well, and because forgotten places rarely asked questions. The signal screamed across his console without warning. Not a beacon. Not a distress call in any known human format. The waveform was jagged, unstable, desperate. His first instinct was to ignore it. That instinct kept people alive out here. Then the scream changed. It wasn't sound. It was pattern. Emotion wrapped inside raw data. Fear compressed into light. Elias froze. He had heard that kind of signal once before, years ago, during the border wars. Alien civilian ships sometimes broadcast emotion-coded signals when language failed. Most humans never encountered them. Fewer survived after doing so. He leaned closer to the screen. The signal came from less than 5 kilometers away. "Damn it," he muttered. Elias sealed his jacket, checked the charge on his plasma cutter, and mounted his crawler. The desert swallowed his headlights as he drove, ash and blackened sand rolling like waves beneath artificial light. Lightning flickered in the distance, violet streaks cutting across the sky. This world's storms were violent, unpredictable, and lethal. Something had crashed. He saw it before the sensors confirmed, twisted metal half buried in glass sand, still glowing from atmospheric burn. Alien design. Sleek curves broken open like bones snapped the wrong way. Smoke bled upward in thin, glowing ribbons. And then he saw movement. Small. Fragile. Elias stopped breathing. A child crawled from the wreckage. She was not human. Her skin shimmered between deep blue and soft purple, like dusk frozen into flesh. Thin lines of light pulsed across her throat and temples, glowing brighter with every panicked movement. Her limbs shook as she dragged herself away from the wreck, one leg twisted unnaturally. She made a sound, not a cry, not a word, but it hit Elias harder than any scream. Fear had a universal language. He ran. The wreck creaked behind him, energy cells whining as they destabilized. He slid into the sand beside her, hands gentle despite the urgency tearing through his chest. "Hey," he said softly, knowing she wouldn't understand. "I've got you." Her eyes locked onto his, wide, silver, reflecting the storm above. The glowing patterns on her skin flared wildly, then slowed. She stopped crawling. Trusted him. That choice would echo across the stars. Elias worked fast. His scanner screamed warnings as the ship's core reached critical. He splintered her leg, injected stabilizers, and lifted her without hesitation. She weighed almost nothing. The explosion came as he turned away. Heat slammed into his back. The force threw him forward, shielding her with his body as sand and fire consumed the wreck. His suit screamed overload warnings, but he didn't stop running until the crawler swallowed them both. The child clung to him, trembling. She survived. That was the moment the universe took notice. 3 days later, Elias stood in his workshop, recalibrating a drone arm, when the ground began to vibrate. Not thunder. Not machinery. Rhythm. He stepped outside. They came over the dunes in perfect formation. Tall figures rode massive 6-legged beasts, their armor catching the sunrise like living crystal. Long silver hair flowed behind them, braided with metal and glowing stone. Their skin carried the same twilight hue as the child's, but these were not children. These were warriors. At their center rode a woman who radiated command. Her armor bore marks of rank and battle, and the bioluminescent lines on her throat glowed in slow, controlled patterns. She dismounted before Elias reached the edge of his settlement. "You saved what belonged to us," she said. Her voice was calm. "Dangerous." "I saved someone who was dying," Elias replied. The warrior studied him, eyes sharp, ancient, measuring. The distinction matters. Behind her, the The tribe dismounted in unison. Dozens of them. All watching. All waiting. The child stepped forward from behind the warriors, limping but alive. Her glowing patterns pulsed brightly when she saw Elias. She pointed at him and spoke rapidly in her own language. The warrior's expression shifted. You carried her through fire, she said. You shielded her with your body. Elias said nothing. Our laws do not account for this, the warrior continued. You are not one of us. Yet you acted as if bound by our oldest codes. What does that mean? Elias asked. It means, she said slowly, that by saving a firstborn of our blood, you have invoked a claim. The wind fell silent. You now stand within our law. The words settled like gravity. I didn't do it for law, Elias said. I did it because it was right. The warrior's throat marks pulsed, faster now. That, she said quietly, is what frightens us. She turned back to her tribe and raised her hand. Drums sounded, deep and powerful, echoing across the dunes. The child smiled at Elias. And somewhere far beyond that dead world, alien councils began to argue, ancient traditions began to bend, and humanity unknowingly took another step toward changing the galaxy. Not through conquest, but through defiance of fate itself. The storm had only just begun. The alien camp rose around Elias's settlement before the sun fully climbed the sky. It happened without chaos, without wasted movement. Tents unfolded from compact metal frames. Energy pylons sank into the sand and vanished beneath the surface. Creatures were tethered, weapons stacked, sentries placed. Every action was precise, practiced, ancient. This was not a visit. This was a presence. Elias stood at the edge of his workshop, hands relaxed but ready. He had survived pirates, corporate assassins, and hostile worlds, but this was different. These warriors were not here to steal or kill. That uncertainty unsettled him more than open threats ever had. The commanding woman approached again. Up close, the patterns on her skin were mesmerizing, light flowing like thought made visible. I am Cariz of the Valari, she said. Shield captain of the First Claw. Elias Vaughn, he replied. Salvager. Engineer. Sometimes medic. Sometimes protector, she corrected. He exhaled slowly. I didn't agree to that title. You invoked it, Cariz said. Our laws respond to action, not consent. She gestured toward the child, who sat near one of the tents wrapped in a thermal cloak. Her leg was stabilized with human splints. Several Valari healers watched Elias with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. She is called Naira, Cariz continued. Firstborn of her bloodline. Her survival is not small. Elias frowned. You're telling me she's important. I am telling you, Cariz said, that entire wars have been fought over less. That explained the numbers. Then why aren't you arresting me? Elias asked. Or killing me. Or dragging me across the stars. Cariz's throat marks pulsed slowly. Thoughtfully. Because our law binds both sides, she said. The one who saves a firstborn becomes a pillar-bound. Elias blinked. That sounds ceremonial. It is, she said. And deadly. She led him into the largest tent. Inside, the air was warm and heavy with unfamiliar scents. Elders sat in a wide circle, their markings more complex, their eyes sharp with age and power. Naira sat near the center. When she saw Elias, her patterns flared bright. She smiled. An elder spoke, voice echoing without amplification. Human Elias Vaughn. You stand before Valari law. I didn't plan to, Elias said honestly. A ripple passed through the elders. Amusement, irritation, interest. You saved what fate had marked for death, the elder continued. By doing so, you challenged the trial of storms. I saved a child, Elias said. Your storm doesn't get a vote. Silence slammed down hard. Cariz stiffened. Several warriors tensed. Then, laughter. Low. Cracking. Ancient. One elder leaned forward. Human defiance. We have studied it. Rarely do we witness it so plainly. Another elder's markings flared sharply. The trial exists to strengthen us. By killing kids. Elias snapped. Carice raised a hand. Enough. She turned to Elias. You speak as if strength and mercy are opposed. They are, Elias said. Strength that needs children to die isn't strength. It's fear wearing tradition. The words landed like a weapon. The elders whispered among themselves, light flashing across their skin in rapid debate. Finally, the first elder spoke again. Our law offers two paths. Elias folded his arms. Let me guess. None of them end with me going home. Correct, the elder said calmly. You may accept pillar bond. And that means? You become bound to Valari fate, Carice said. Advisor. Outsider. Witness. When we face crisis, you stand with us. And the other path? You refuse, the elder said. And Naira is declared storm-taken. Her survival, invalid. Elias's jaw tightened. That's not a choice, he said quietly. No, Carice agreed. It is a test. Naira limped forward, gripping her cloak. She stood beside Elias and looked up at him, silver eyes serious. You came back, she said in broken standard. Storm did not scare you. Elias knelt so they were eye level. I won't let anyone hurt you. Ever. Her markings glowed steady and warm. I accept, Elias said, standing. Whatever this bond is. I accept. The elders rose together. So be it, they declared. The ground trembled, not physically, but something deeper. Elias felt it in his chest, like gravity shifting direction. You are now pillar-bound, Carice said. And because you are human, the galaxy will notice. That night, alarms screamed. Valari sentries raised weapons as dark shapes tore through the sky. Not storms. Not natural. Ships. Sleek. Black. Marked with sigils Elias recognized immediately. Raiders. A hostile alien faction that despised both Valari and humans equally. They tracked the crash, Elias said. They'll wipe this camp out. Carice turned to him. Then speak, Pillar. What does humanity do when outnumbered? Elias smiled grimly. We cheat. He sprinted toward his workshop, mind racing. Old mining charges. Atmospheric ionizers. Jury-rigged EMPs. This world was unstable, volatile, perfect. The first raider ship descended. Elias flipped a switch. The desert answered. Lightning erupted, not wild, but guided. Energy surged through ionized sand and slammed into enemy hulls. Shields failed. Engines died. Ships fell from the sky like stones. Valari warriors stared in stunned silence. What is this? Carice demanded over the roar. Human creativity, Elias shouted back. You fight storms. We teach them new tricks. As raiders crashed and burned, Valari warriors charged, blades flashing, howls shaking the air. Human ingenuity and alien strength collided, perfectly. By dawn, the desert was quiet again. Carice stood beside Elias, watching smoke rise from broken enemy ships. You have rewritten a law tonight, she said. Elias wiped sand from his face. Get used to it. Naira ran up and hugged his leg. The elders watched from afar, glowing marks shifting in patterns no one had seen before. The galaxy had just learned something important. Humans did not just survive storms. They taught storms how to lose. The Valari did not celebrate victory the way humans did. There were no cheers, no raised weapons, no roaring triumph. Instead, the warriors stood silently among the wreckage of the fallen raider ships, heads bowed, bioluminescent markings flowing in slow, thoughtful patterns across their skin. They were not honoring the dead. They were recalculating reality. Elias felt it in the air. The subtle shift. The way eyes lingered on him longer now. The way distance was measured differently. Before, he had been an outsider who interfered. Now, he was a factor. The raiders will return, Kariz said as dawn light bled across the desert. They never attack only once. Elias nodded, already dismantling a damaged drone for parts. Good. Means they learned something. Kariz frowned. That concerns me. It should, Elias replied. Because they also learned I exist. The elders summoned him before midday. This time, the tent felt smaller. Not physically, but socially. The circle tightened. The air buzzed with unspoken tension. Naira sat beside the eldest matron, her small hand resting confidently on the elder's knee. She looked healthier already. Stronger. Elias noticed that before anything else. You disrupted a natural cycle, one elder said. I prevented a massacre, Elias replied. You weaponized a storm, another added. I optimized one, Elias corrected. Murmurs rippled through the circle. Kariz stepped forward. He turned the environment into an ally. This is not Dishona. This is intelligence. Intelligence without restraint reshapes civilizations, the eldest matron said slowly. Elias met her gaze. So does blind tradition. Silence. Then the matron leaned back. You speak as though you expect consequences. I do, Elias said. That's why I'm still here. The matron studied him for a long moment. The Valari have long believed strength was inherited through blood and survival. Naira looked up at Elias. But today, the matron continued, we witness strength created through thought. The elder markings shifted, something close to awe. You have become more than pillar-bound, she said. You are now a variable. Elias frowned. That doesn't sound reassuring. It is not, Kariz said quietly. Variables destabilize systems. And systems that can't handle change deserve to fall, Elias replied. That night, Naira found him alone outside his workshop, watching the stars. They talk about you, she said. I get that a lot, Elias smiled. They say humans are strange, Naira continued. You are weak alone. But together, you break things. Elias chuckled. We prefer the term problem solvers. Naira tilted her head. Will they take you away? He looked at her. Not without a fight. She nodded, satisfied. Hours later, the warning came. Not alarms. Silence. The stars dimmed. Elias felt it instantly, the unnatural absence of background radiation. The kind of quiet that only came before something catastrophic. They are cloaked, he said aloud. Kariz's voice snapped over the comms. All warriors, defensive formation. But Elias was already moving. The raiders had adapted. Their ships hovered beyond storm range, deploying ground forces instead. Tall, armored figures descended in drop pods that slammed into the sand like meteors. Valari warriors charged. And began to fall. Elias swore. The raiders carried suppression fields, technology designed to disrupt bioluminescent neural patterns. The Valari's greatest strength was being turned against them. Kariz staggered as her markings flickered wildly. They learned, she growled. Yeah, Elias said, pulling out a device still half assembled. So did I. He slammed the module into the ground and activated it. Nothing happened. For 2 seconds. Then every Valari marking stabilized. Stronger. Brighter. What did you do? Kariz demanded. I translated your biology, Elias said. Your light patterns are data. I just gave them encryption. The raiders hesitated. That was their mistake. Valari warriors surged forward with renewed power. Blades struck true. Suppression fields failed. Alien screams filled the air. But more ships descended. Too many. Elias looked around, calculating, adapting. Evacuate Naira, he ordered. No, Kariz said. She stays with her people. Elias knelt in front of Naira, placing a small device in her hand. If things go bad, activate this and run. What does it do? She asked. It makes you invisible, he said. Human invisible. She smiled. I trust you. The final raider ship descended, larger than the rest. Heavily armored. A command vessel. Elias's eyes narrowed. That's the brain, he muttered. He sprinted toward his workshop as fire rained behind him. Inside, he activated a system he had never intended to use. A prototype. A human answer to overwhelming force. The ground began to hum. What is he doing? An elder whispered. Carice watched Elias step back outside, hand steady. He's changing the rules, she said. The desert lit up. Not with explosions, but with control. Energy lines traced across the sand, connecting devices Elias had buried days ago without explanation. The raider command ship shuddered. Then fell, crashing into the dunes in a cloud of fire and metal. The battlefield froze. Valari stared. Raiders fled. Elias exhaled slowly. Conflict resolved, he said into the comm. Naira ran to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. You broke the sky, she said happily. Elias laughed, exhausted. Don't tell anyone. It's bad for diplomacy. The elders gathered once more. You have forced us to reconsider everything, the matron said. Elias met her gaze. Good. You will not leave us, she said. Elias shrugged. Wasn't planning to. Carice stepped beside him, her markings glowing with something new. Respect. Human Elias Vaughn, she said, you are no longer merely pillar-bound. What am I now? She smiled, a sharp, dangerous, admiring smile. You are proof. Proof that humanity did not need numbers, size, or ancient bloodlines. Only the will to think differently. And the courage to act anyway. The Valari Council did not meet immediately after the battle. That alone told Elias something was wrong. Victory usually demanded ceremony, judgment, and ritual. Instead, the camp moved with quiet urgency. Wounded warriors were treated. Fallen raiders were burned without honor. Scouts vanished into the dunes, spreading out far beyond normal patrol ranges. Fear had entered the equation. Elias felt it when Carice finally found him, standing alone near the crash site of the Raider Command ship. You broke more than enemy vessels, she said. I had to, Elias replied. They would have wiped you out. Yes, Carice said. And now they know something far worse. She gestured toward the ruined ship. They know humans can rewrite environments. They know Valari law bends around you. And they know Naira lives. Elias turned slowly. That last one sounds personal. It is, Carice said quietly. Naira's bloodline is tied to the storm seat. Elias frowned. That sounds important. It is sacred, Carice corrected. Our leaders are not chosen by strength alone. They are chosen by survival under the storm. Naira was meant to die. Her survival fractures the old prophecy. Good, Elias said. Prophesies are lazy thinking. Carice did not smile. The elders disagree, she said. Some believe you saved the future. Others believe you stole it. The council gathered at dusk. This time, the circle was larger. Warriors stood behind the elders. The air was tense, bioluminescent patterns flashing rapidly, betraying emotions Valari discipline could no longer hide. The eldest matron rose. Human Elias Vaughn, she said. Your actions have forced our people into a dangerous transition. Because I didn't let a kid die. Elias replied. Yes, she said evenly. Because you proved the storm is not a god. That landed hard. For thousands of cycles, the matron continued, we believed survival under chaos defined worth. You showed us chaos can be engineered. Controlled. Elias crossed his arms. So what's the problem? The problem, another elder said sharply, is that if storms can be controlled, then so can fate. Murmurs rippled. That scares you, Elias said. It should scare everyone, the elder snapped. Carice stepped forward. Enough. The human is not the threat. The raiders are regrouping. They will return with allies. And they will bring proof, the matron added. Proof that Valari traditions are broken. All eyes turned to Naira. She stood, small but unafraid, glowing softly. They came because of me, she said. They will keep coming. Elias moved instantly. Then I'll stop them. The elders stared. You would face a coalition, one asked. Elias nodded. That's kind of humanity's thing. Carice studied him. You cannot win a war alone. I won't be alone, Elias said. You just haven't realized it yet. He activated a hollow projector. The image that appeared caused a collective gasp. Human ships. Not warships, freighters, explorers, old colony vessels. Civilian hulls retrofitted, scarred, mismatched. They're not military, an elder said. No, Elias agreed. They are worse. He smiled grimly. They are human. The transmission crackled to life. A woman's voice echoed through the tent. Calm. Confident. Elias Vaughn, you're late. Yeah, Elias replied. Ran into a moral crisis. Laughter echoed from the speakers. Carice stared. You summoned them. I didn't summon, Elias said. I asked. The matron leaned forward. Why would they come? Elias's eyes hardened. Because humans remember who saved children, he said. And we don't forget who tries to kill them. The first Raider Coalition fleet arrived 2 days later. They expected resistance. They did not expect unity. Human ships dropped from hyperspace alongside Valari war creatures and storm riders. Energy fields synchronized. Human systems adapted in real time to alien biology. Valari warriors moved through combat zones guided by human tactical overlays. Raiders broke formation. Coalition commanders panicked. This was not how wars were supposed to work. Elias stood on the ridge beside Carice, watching the sky burn. You've turned our people into something new, she said. So have you, Elias replied. You just didn't know you could be. The final battle was brutal and fast. Human EMP waves stripped shields. Valari strike teams boarded disabled ships. Raiders fled in chaos. When it was over, silence returned. The galaxy took notes. Back at camp, the elders convened one last time. The storm seat must be filled, the matron said. Naira survives. The prophecy must evolve. She looked at Elias. You will not leave, she said. You have become a foundation stone of Valari future. Elias exhaled slowly. I never wanted power. Neither did the storm, Carice said softly. Yet it shaped us. Naira took Elias's hand. You stay, she said simply. He nodded. The elders bowed, not fully, but enough. A human. Acknowledged. The old Valari gods had not died. They had been replaced by something far more dangerous. Choice. The galaxy did not change overnight. That was something Elias understood well. Civilizations rarely collapsed in fire. They shifted slowly, painfully, like tectonic plates grinding beneath the surface. What happened on the forgotten desert world was not a revolution. It was a crack. And cracks spread. Weeks passed. The Valari camp transformed into something new. Human engineers and Valari builders worked side by side, translating concepts instead of commands. Human tools were adapted for alien hands. Valari bioluminescent signaling was integrated into human tactical displays. What once had been impossible became routine. Not because of treaties. Because of trust. Elias stood on a ridge overlooking the settlement, watching Naira train with other children. She laughed as she failed, learned, and tried again. Her survival had stopped being a miracle. It had become a promise. You look tired, Carice said, stepping beside him. Galaxy-sized problems will do that, Elias replied. She studied him, her markings flowing softly. The councils beyond our territory are debating your existence. That's flattering, Elias said dryly. They argue whether humanity is a destabilizing force or a necessary evolution. Elias shrugged. Both can be true. Cerise smiled faintly. That answer terrifies them. The first official delegation arrived 3 days later. Not raiders. Not soldiers. Observers. Tall, thin aliens with mirrored skin and cold, calculating eyes. Archivists. The kind that recorded history after it was already decided. They demanded explanation. Why Valari law had changed. Why a human held pillar status. Why storms no longer decided worth. The eldest matron answered them calmly. Because we learned the storm was never the test, she said. The response was. The archivists turned to Elias. You altered the outcome of a sacred trial, one said. Why? Elias did not hesitate. Because no system that demands innocent deaths deserves to survive, he said. Not yours. Not mine. Not anyone's. Silence followed. Then one archivist spoke the words that would echo across the galaxy. Humanity introduces unacceptable variables. Elias nodded. We're aware. The archivists left. And the recordings spread. Across trade routes. Across political networks. Across worlds that had quietly accepted ancient cruelties as inevitable. People, alien and human, began to ask questions. Why did children have to die? Why was strength defined by suffering? Why had no one tried to change the rules? Some rulers cracked down. Others listened. The Valari were no longer alone. One night, as twin moons rose, Naira sat beside Elias, legs dangling from the platform edge. Do storms still scare you? She asked. Elias thought for a moment. They remind me to be careful. She nodded seriously. They don't scare me anymore. That's good, he said. Because if storms are not gods, she continued, then people must be. Elias smiled softly. Not gods. Just responsible. The final council convened under open sky. No walls. No hierarchy circle. The matron spoke one last time. The Valari will no longer test children against storms, she declared. We will test leaders by what they protect. Warriors lowered their weapons in agreement. Naira stepped forward. I will learn, she said. Not because I survived, but because I choose to. The tribe bowed fully this time. To a child. To a future. To change. Cerise turned to Elias as the gathering dispersed. You will be remembered, she said. Not as conqueror. Not as ruler. What then? Elias asked. She smiled, fierce and proud. As the human who proved mercy could be stronger than gods. Elias looked up at the sky, at the storms that once ruled fate. They still raged. But now, they listened. Far away, human ships continued their journeys. Some would hear the story. Some would doubt it. Some would laugh. Until one day, they faced a choice. And remembered. Because humanity's greatest weapon was never firepower. It was the refusal to accept that suffering was normal. And once the galaxy learned that lesson, there was no going back.